Have you ever wondered why a single touch can change the way someone feels about you? Why a hand on the shoulder, a gentle squeeze, or a soft hold can calm storms? Inside the mind, silence fear and build a bond words could never create. Touch has always been the hidden language of the heart, a silent force that speaks louder than any sentence. And when it comes to a man, there are certain places where a touch does more than comfort. It awakens something deep within, something he cannot resist. Before we uncover those 5 powerful places, let me tell you why this matters. In a world where everyone is chasing words, where people rely on promises, explanations, and endless talking, true impact often comes without a single syllable. It comes from energy, presence, and connection. Touch is the proof of presence. It's the evidence that you are here with him, not just in body, but in spirit. Psychology shows that human beings are wired to crave touch. Without it, the soul withers, and with it, people bloom. Think for a moment about your own life. Recall a time when someone touched you not out of habit, but with real meaning. Maybe it was a hand holding yours in silence when you were afraid. Or maybe it was someone patting your back in a moment when you doubted yourself. Did you feel stronger? Did you feel seen without even speaking? That is the magic of touch. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to the subconscious. Men, no matter how strong, no matter how silent, are not immune to this. In fact, psychology reveals something striking. Men who often hide emotions, men who are taught to carry weight without complaint, are sometimes the ones who need touch the most, because touch reminds them they are not alone. It tells them they are valued, respected, cared for. And when it reaches certain places, it leaves an imprint that is almost impossible to resist. Now, here's the reward for staying with me until the end. By the time we finish, you will not only know the 5 places where your touch can deeply move a man, but you will also understand why it works. You will see how these touches do more than spark attraction. They create trust, awaken courage, and inspire loyalty. So if you truly want to understand how to touch not just the skin, but the soul, stay with me until the last word, because that knowledge is waiting for you. But let us come back to where we are right now. The foundation. Why does touch hold this kind of power? Neuroscience gives us part of the answer. When the skin feels a meaningful touch, the brain releases oxytocin, the hormone of bonding. It lowers stress, silences fear, and builds connection. At the same time, dopamine, the chemical of reward, makes the moment feel unforgettable. Together, they create a memory that doesn't just live in the mind, but in the heart. This is why one sincere touch can last longer in memory than 100 empty words. Think of it like this. Words can lie, actions can be misunderstood, but touch rarely deceives. You cannot fake the energy of a hand that truly cares. You cannot disguise the intention behind the way you reach out. That is why touch is the ultimate truth. And when used with the right intention, it can unlock doors inside a man that nothing else could. So many people underestimate this. They think attraction is built only through appearance, wealth, or charm. But the truth is, none of these matter if you cannot connect on a deeper level. What truly anchors love, respect, and admiration is the ability to reach into the unseen places of another person's soul. And one of the fastest ways to do that is through meaningful touch. Men, for all their armor, respond to touch because it bypasses their defenses. The world tells them to be strong, to endure pain, to never show weakness. But a genuine touch breaks through that wall. It tells him you don't have to fight alone. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. You are safe here. And that message, delivered without words, is irresistible. The truth is, every single one of us is built with this deep craving. Psychologists have studied babies in orphanages who were fed and kept alive, but not held. And what they discovered is heartbreaking without touch. Many of those children failed to thrive. Touch isn't just luxury. It's survival. It is proof of connection, proof of love, proof of existence. That need never disappears. It just hides behind the mask of adulthood. So, as we prepare to enter the 5 specific places where a man cannot resist your touch, understand this. It is not about manipulation. It is not about control. It is about awakening the natural human longing for connection, for comfort, for closeness. These 5 places work not because they are tricks, but because they reach something universal, something timeless in the male heart. Stay with me, because once you learn them, you will hold in your hands one of the most powerful keys to human connection. A key that doesn't just attract, but heals. A key that doesn't just excite, but inspires. And once you use it with respect and intention, you will see the undeniable truth. A man cannot resist the touch that speaks to his soul. Touch is not just physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual. When skin meets skin with true intention, something invisible takes place. It travels deeper than the surface and reaches into the mind, where it reshapes thoughts and feelings without a single word being spoken. That is why touch has been called the oldest form of communication. Long before language, long before words were created, human beings touched each other to express love, safety, and unity. And even today, that truth still remains. Psychology shows us that the human brain is wired to respond to touch instantly. It is one of the few senses that does not require thought to create an emotional reaction. A meaningful touch activates parts of the brain linked to memory, bonding, and trust. This is why you never forget how someone made you feel when they reached out to you in a moment of fear or joy. It imprints itself like a seal, leaving behind an emotional mark that cannot be erased. For men, this effect carries even more weight. Many men are taught from a young age to control their emotions, to stand tall, to endure pain without showing it. Society often tells them that vulnerability is weakness, and yet, no matter how solid the mask appears, the heart still longs for connection. Touch becomes the one language that slips through those barriers. It says everything words cannot. It tells him he is accepted, not for what he achieves, but for who he is at his core. Science has uncovered something powerful about touch. It reduces the stress hormone cortisol, lowers blood pressure, and even slows down the heart rate in moments of tension. This means that touch is not just comforting, it is healing. It transforms the body's state from fear into calm, from chaos into order. And in relationships, it builds a sense of safety that no argument or conversation can fully create. Think about this for a moment. When someone feels unsafe, their mind is filled with doubt. They question intentions. They protect themselves. But when someone feels safe, the mind opens. It trusts. It allows closeness. And the simplest way to create this shift is through intentional, caring touch. That is why it is so powerful in a man's life. It tells him he doesn't need to keep the shield up. He can breathe. He can rest. Touch also ignites the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. This chemical is like the glue of human relationships. It is what makes people feel connected after a hug, what deepens closeness between partners, and what turns attraction into real attachment. When you touch a man with sincerity, his brain responds with this natural surge of bonding. It is not something he chooses. It happens beyond his control. And that is why he cannot resist it. But here is what many people overlook. The power of touch does not come from force. It does not come from trying to manipulate. Its power comes from intention. A careless touch means nothing, but a touch filled with presence, with care, with genuine emotion. This is what transforms it into something unforgettable. It is not about how many times you reach out. It is about how deeply your touch carries your truth. There is also a deeper psychological layer. Touch triggers the ancient part of the brain that seeks belonging. Human beings are social creatures. For thousands of years, survival depended on closeness to others. To be touched meant to be part of the tribe, part of the group, protected and not alone. That primal need never disappeared. It still lives in every man, even in the strongest. When you touch him in a way that awakens that primal code, it pulls at something beyond logic. It reminds him that he belongs, that he is connected, that he matters. Touch also creates contrast in a man's life. Out in the world, he may be battling challenges, pressures, and expectations. He may wear the armor of toughness to survive in a competitive world. But when he experiences the right touch, that armor softens. He feels human again. He feels alive, not just as someone who must fight, but as someone who is seen and understood. That contrast is magnetic. It is why men are drawn back to the places and people who give them that rare experience of peace. Think about it. Strength without rest is exhaustion. Power without comfort is emptiness. Every man, no matter how resilient, craves moments when he can lay down his guard. And it is touch that provides that doorway. Not through grand gestures, not through endless talk, but through simple, intentional contact that carries a message: you are safe, you are valued, you are not alone. The psychology of touch teaches us one undeniable truth: connection is not built only in the mind. It is built in the body, in the heart, in the soul. A single meaningful touch can accomplish what hours of talking could not. It can restore trust. It can build intimacy. It can awaken love. And for a man who spends so much of his life suppressing emotion, it can be the one thing he truly cannot resist. The first place where your touch carries extraordinary power is the hands. At first glance, it may seem simple, almost ordinary, but psychology reveals something remarkable. Holding hands is one of the strongest forms of human connection. It is not just about physical contact, it is about what it represents. When your hand reaches for his, it communicates something far deeper than words ever could. It tells him that he is not alone. Think about it. From childhood, a hand has always been a signal of safety. A child holds a parent's hand when afraid of the dark, when crossing the street, or when entering an unfamiliar place. That hand says, "You are safe with me." That meaning never disappears. It only changes shape as we grow older. When you hold a man's hand, it carries the same primal message: protection, trust, and presence. Psychologists explain that the act of hand-holding lowers stress and anxiety almost instantly. The skin contains thousands of nerve endings, and when they feel the warmth of another hand, the brain interprets it as comfort. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. In that moment, the body literally shifts into a calmer, more trusting state. That is why hand-holding feels so natural, so healing. It is not an empty gesture, it is a biological signal of safety. For men, this touch often means more than they will ever admit. Many men walk through the world carrying invisible weight, responsibilities, expectations, struggles they may never voice aloud. The simple act of taking his hand tells him that he doesn't have to carry it all by himself. It whispers to him that someone is beside him, that he is valued not only for his strength, but for his humanity. And in a world where men are often expected to always be strong, this reminder is powerful beyond measure. There is also something symbolic about the hand. It is the part of the body that works, builds, fights, and creates. It represents action and responsibility. When you touch or hold his hand, you are not just touching skin. You are touching the very symbol of his effort and his struggles. It is a silent way of saying, "I see what you carry, and I am with you in it." That recognition is something no man can resist, because deep down, every person longs to be seen, not just for their victories, but for their battles. Notice how different moments change the meaning of this touch. Holding his hand in public tells him you are proud to be beside him, that you are not ashamed to be connected to him. Holding it in private, in silence, during times of fear or stress, tells him you are his anchor, the place where he can rest. Even a small brush of the fingers when passing something to him can ignite a spark of connection, because the hand is a gateway to intimacy. Science supports this. Researchers have found that couples who hold hands during stressful situations feel less pain and greater calm. The brain actually registers the partner's touch as a form of relief, almost as if the nervous system itself is sharing the burden. Imagine what this means. By simply holding his hand, you can make his world feel lighter. You can reduce the storms in his mind without ever speaking a word. It is not about force. It is not about control. It is about presence. When you reach for his hand with authenticity, it tells him he is safe to be himself. That sense of belonging is rare in a world that constantly demands performance. But in that single act, you give him permission to lay down his armor, even if just for a moment. And that moment becomes unforgettable. Think about the times in history when hands symbolized unity. Soldiers held hands in prayer before battle. Friends locked hands in promises. Lovers clasped hands to show devotion. Even in the darkest times, hands became symbols of light and courage. That is why touching a man's hand today carries such weight. It awakens this timeless truth that we are stronger together than we ever are alone. For a man, the touch of a hand is not just about romance. It is about reassurance. It is about knowing that someone is with him through the silent battles he fights. It tells him he is not isolated in his struggles. It gives him a sense of grounding when the world around him feels unstable. And that grounding is something no man can turn away from. So never underestimate the quiet power of holding hands. It may seem small, but in reality, it is one of the greatest gifts you can offer. Because in that single gesture, you are saying, "I see you. I stand with you. I am here." And for a man who lives under the weight of silence, those words, spoken without sound, are irresistible. The second place where your touch holds undeniable power is the shoulders. At first, it may seem ordinary, but when understood through the lens of psychology, This touch carries meaning that reaches far deeper than the surface. A man's shoulders are not just part of his body, they are a symbol. They represent the weight he carries, the responsibilities he bears, the silent struggles he rarely speaks about. To touch his shoulders is to reach the very place where his burdens rest. Every man, in his own way, carries the load of life on his shoulders. It might be the pressure to provide, the responsibility to protect, or the expectation to remain strong even when he feels weak inside. These invisible weights build over time, and though he may not always show it, they take their toll. A simple touch on the shoulder in these moments communicates something profound. You don't have to carry it all alone. I am here with you. Psychologists explain that touch on the shoulders often triggers feelings of reassurance and grounding. It is one of the most effective gestures to reduce tension because the shoulders are naturally associated with stress. Think about it. When someone is anxious or overwhelmed, the shoulders tighten. They rise, stiffen, and hold the body's stress. When your hand rests gently on them, it can relax that tension, signaling safety to both the body and the mind. This is why even a brief caring touch on the shoulders can bring comfort greater than words. For men, this touch also carries an unspoken layer of respect. The shoulders are tied to posture, strength, and presence. They are the place where medals are pinned, where uniforms rest, where pride is often carried. When you place your hand there, it is as if you are silently acknowledging his strength, while at the same time reminding him that he does not have to face life's battles alone. It becomes a balance between honoring his power and easing his burden. Consider how often this gesture appears in human history. Leaders place hands on shoulders to inspire courage in those they guide. Friends touch shoulders in moments of solidarity, saying without words, "I am with you in this fight." Even in moments of grief, the touch on the shoulder is a universal sign of empathy and presence. It is not dramatic. It is not showy, but it carries a depth that reaches the heart. Science reinforces this truth. A study on supportive touch found that when someone feels a hand on their shoulders, the brain releases endorphins, which are natural chemicals of calm and reassurance. It tells the nervous system to release tension, creating a sense of relief. For a man who walks through life under constant pressure, this relief is irresistible because it allows him to feel strong and supported at the same time. But what makes this touch so unique is its versatility. On one hand, it can be firm, giving encouragement like a coach telling an athlete, "You've got this." On the other hand, it can be soft and gentle, a quiet reminder of love and comfort. Both forms carry impact. Both forms speak volumes. And both forms remind him of something men often forget, that strength does not mean standing alone. Think about how it feels in moments of doubt. A man might question his worth, question his direction, or doubt his ability to overcome obstacles. In that silence, your hand on his shoulder tells him that someone believes in him. It doesn't demand a reply. It doesn't require explanation. It simply says, "I see you, I trust you, I stand beside you." That message cuts deeper than speeches or arguments ever could. The shoulders are also the gateway to pride and vulnerability. Touching them can either lift him higher or ease the weight pulling him down. When you use that touch with sincerity, you remind him of both, his capacity to rise and his permission to rest. That duality is what makes it powerful. It motivates him to keep moving, but it also gives him the rare space to simply be human. Men are often told to be unshakable, to always push forward, to never collapse under pressure. But the truth is, even the strongest shoulders grow tired. A touch in that place tells him he doesn't need to pretend. It tells him that in your presence, he doesn't need to hide the weight he carries. And that feeling, the safety to be strong and vulnerable at the same time, is one of the greatest gifts anyone can offer. So never underestimate what your touch on the shoulders can mean. It is not just a gesture, it is a message that says, "I respect the strength you show. I see the weight you carry. And I am here to remind you that you don't have to bear it all by yourself." That reminder has the power to transform not just his mood, but his spirit. It makes the difference between walking alone and walking with someone who truly understands. And that difference is something no man can resist. The third place where your touch carries irresistible power is the face. Few gestures in human connection are as intimate, as vulnerable, and as unforgettable as touching a man's face. This is because the face is the doorway to his identity, the most visible part of who he is, and the part of himself he cannot hide. When you touch his face, you are not only touching skin, you are touching the very center of his humanity. From the earliest moments of life, the face is where emotions are read and felt. A mother caresses her child's cheeks, soothing fear and creating security. Lovers trace each other's faces in moments of closeness as if to memorize every detail. To touch someone's face is to tell them, I see you, I honor you, I accept you exactly as you are. For a man who often hides behind strength and silence, this message strikes deeper than words ever could. Psychology explains that touching the face activates intense emotional responses because the nerves there are connected to the brain's centers of recognition and emotion. That is why a gentle stroke on the cheek, a hand against the jaw, or a soft touch on the forehead can calm anger, dissolve fear, and create immediate closeness. It bypasses thought and goes straight to the heart. No wonder this simple gesture often feels unforgettable. It touches the very core of who he is. For men, the face holds particular significance. It is where they are judged, where they present strength, and where they often hide their vulnerability. A man may walk into the world with a strong jaw, a steady gaze, and a mask of control, but when your hand reaches for his face, it quietly tells him that he doesn't need to wear that mask with you. It allows him to be human again, to feel seen beyond his role, his duties, and his armor. That kind of acceptance is irresistible because it is so rare. Think about it. When conflict arises, words can divide. Explanations can fail. But a simple hand on the face can silence the storm. It carries a message that cannot be misunderstood. You matter to me. I am here. This is why touching the face is often seen as the highest expression of closeness. It requires trust on both sides, trust to give it and trust to receive it. It is a touch that can only be shared when the connection is genuine. Science supports this too. Researchers studying touch found that face-to-face contact combined with gentle touch creates the highest levels of oxytocin release. This hormone deepens trust, softens defenses, and builds emotional bonding. It creates what psychologists call limbic resonance, a state where two hearts seem to move in rhythm. For a man, this experience is overwhelming in the best possible way. It makes him feel not just appreciated, but truly understood. Touching the face also holds symbolic meaning. It is the place where he expresses joy, pain, and determination. When your hand meets his face, it is as if you are reaching into those emotions and saying, I accept all of it. That kind of acceptance is a gift because most men live in a world where they are valued for what they do, not for who they are. A hand on his face tells him he is worthy even without performance. That truth leaves an impression he cannot shake. Notice how this touch changes in different moments. A gentle caress across his cheek in silence tells him he is cherished. Holding his face while he feels uncertain reminds him he is not alone. Even brushing away tension from his forehead during stress tells him that someone sees his struggle and stands with him. These are not grand gestures, but they carry power greater than any speech. The face also holds vulnerability. Unlike the hands or shoulders, it cannot hide. It is the place where every weakness shows. To allow someone to touch it is to allow them access to that vulnerability. When you offer that touch with care and sincerity, you become the one person who can reach him at his most unguarded. And that kind of closeness is something no man forgets. Remember this, men may resist words, they may dismiss compliments, they may hide behind strength, but they cannot resist the touch that tells them they are seen. When your hand meets his face with love, you give him permission to be human in a world that demands he always be strong. That is why this touch lingers in his memory. That is why it is irresistible. So when your hand rests on his face, understand the message it carries. It is not just touch, it is trust. It is not just comfort, it is connection. And for a man who longs, often in silence, to be fully accepted, that touch speaks louder than anything else. It tells him he is valued, he is safe, and he is loved exactly as he is. And that, above all, is a message no man can turn away from. The fourth place where your touch holds immense meaning is the back. At first, it may seem ordinary, but in reality, the back is one of the most symbolic parts of a man's body. It represents protection, strength, and resilience. It is where he carries the unseen weight of his responsibilities, where his posture reveals his pride or his exhaustion, and where his silent battles often show themselves without a word. To touch his back is to acknowledge all of this at once. and to offer him something he rarely receives, comfort in the place where he carries his heaviest burdens. Think about how often the back is connected to struggle. When a man feels overwhelmed, his back bends under pressure. When he feels tired, his shoulders slump. And when he feels strong, his back straightens with determination. This part of the body tells the story of how he is truly doing, even when his words say otherwise. A gentle hand on his back tells him, I see the weight you carry. You don't have to carry it alone. Psychologists often speak about the back as a symbol of trust. It is the part of the body we cannot see ourselves. To allow someone near it is to allow vulnerability, because it means trusting them not to harm us while we are exposed. This is why a supportive touch on the back is so powerful. It communicates loyalty, reassurance, and solidarity. It says, I've got your back, in the truest sense of the phrase. Science also shows that a touch on the back activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's rest and restore mode. It signals safety to the brain, lowering stress and creating calm. This is why even a light hand on the back during moments of tension can ease anxiety and bring peace. For a man who constantly feels the pressure to endure, to stand tall, and to never falter, this kind of touch can feel like a release. It tells him that he has a safe place to lean, even if only for a moment. Notice how universal this gesture is. In moments of triumph, people slap each other on the back as a sign of pride. In moments of struggle, a soft hand rests there as a gesture of comfort. Leaders encourage their followers with a hand on the back, silently pushing them forward. It is a touch that has always symbolized support, whether in victory or defeat. When you touch a man's back with sincerity, you join him in both, celebrating his strength while also easing his struggles. For men, this carries special significance. Many live with the belief that they must face the world alone, that they must hold everything together without showing weakness. But when someone touches their back with care, it challenges that belief. It reminds them that true strength is not in isolation, but in connection. It tells them that even when they are fighting, even when they are tired, someone is standing with them, unseen but unshakable. Think of the symbolism. The back is where armor rests in battle. It is the place that must be covered when danger comes. To touch it gently tells him that in your presence, he doesn't need armor. He doesn't need to watch for threats, or he can finally exhale. That sense of security is rare. When he feels it, he cannot resist it. Consider also how powerful this is in moments of encouragement. A firm, supportive touch between the shoulder blades can motivate him to keep moving forward. It tells him that someone believes in his journey, even when he doubts himself. It gives him energy to rise again when life tries to push him down. At the same time, a soft, calming touch lower on the back tells him he has a place to rest. It offers balance, the push to grow, and the permission to breathe. What makes this touch unforgettable is not its size, but its meaning. You are telling him without words that his battles are not unseen. You are saying, I respect what you carry. I trust your strength. And when the weight feels heavy, I will stand behind you. That message touches more than his body. It touches his soul. Men may rarely admit it, but they long for that reassurance. They long for the moment when someone steps behind them, not to challenge, but to support, to place a hand on their back and remind them that they are not alone in the fight. And because this need runs deeper than pride or performance, no man can resist the relief it brings. So remember this, when your hand rests on his back, it is not just a gesture, it is a promise that says, I will stand with you, I will stand behind you, and I will never let you fight alone. And for a man who carries so much, that promise is not just comforting, it is unforgettable. The fifth place where your touch carries a power no man can resist is the heart area. This is more than just a physical spot on his chest. It is the center of his being, the place that symbolizes life, love, and vulnerability. When your hand rests near his heart, you are not just touching skin. You are reaching into the very core of who he is, into the space where his deepest emotions live. The heart has always been seen as the seat of human emotion. For centuries, people have linked it to courage, love, and truth. Even though science tells us emotions come from the brain, the heart remains the symbol of feeling, connection, and sincerity. When you touch a man near this sacred place, you awaken a response that is impossible to ignore. It tells him, I see the real you. I honor the part of you that feels, not just the part of you that performs. For men, this touch carries even greater meaning. Many men are trained to protect their hearts, both physically and emotionally. They shield their inner world behind strength, composure, and control. To let someone close to their chest is to allow them past those defenses into the most vulnerable place of all. A touch there breaks through walls that words could never reach. It signals trust. It says, I am not here to hurt you. I am here to connect with you where you are most human. Psychology supports this power. When touched near the heart, the brain interprets it as closeness and intimacy. The proximity to the heartbeat itself is significant. He feels not only your touch, but the reminder of his own life, his own rhythm, his own humanity. In moments of stress or fear, this kind of touch calms the nervous system, slows the heartbeat, and replaces tension with peace. For a man whose heart often races with unspoken worries, that calmness is unforgettable. Think about the symbolism. The chest is where people place their hands during oaths, during prayers, during promises of truth. It is the place that represents integrity and sincerity. When your hand rests there, you are not just offering comfort, you are offering recognition of his soul. You are telling him that beyond the image he shows the world, you value the beating truth inside of him. That recognition is something he cannot resist because it touches the part of him that longs most to be seen. Consider how powerful this can be in different moments. During triumph, touching his heart area tells him you are proud of who he is, not just what he has achieved. During fear or uncertainty, it tells him you are with him where he feels most vulnerable. During love and closeness, it deepens intimacy by silently saying, I connect with you at the deepest level. These moments go beyond attraction. They become etched into memory because they touch the very essence of his humanity. Science reveals another layer. The heart's rhythm and the brain's emotions are linked through what researchers call heart-brain coherence. When someone feels loved and safe, the heart beats in a steady, harmonious rhythm, which in turn signals the brain to relax and trust. Your touch near his heart can trigger this state, making him feel more at peace, more connected, and more alive. It is not just emotional, it is biological. For men who often carry their struggles in silence, this is transformative. A touch near the heart tells him that he does not need to hide his fears, his pain, or his softness. It gives him permission to be real, to be human without judgment. That kind of acceptance is rare, and when he experiences it, he cannot turn away from it. There is also a reason why people embrace each other chest to chest in the closest hugs. It aligns the heartbeat with another's presence, creating a silent exchange of energy and trust. When you rest your hand near his heart, you are offering that same connection in a concentrated form. You are telling him, I am here, not just beside you, but with you, in the very center of your being. Men may resist many things in life. They may resist help, resist advice, resist showing weakness. But they cannot resist the message carried by a touch near their heart. It speaks to a level deeper than pride or defense. It tells them that they are safe to feel, safe to love, safe to trust. And once that message is delivered, it becomes unforgettable. So remember this, when your touch rests on his heart area, it is more than contact. It is communion. It is not just affection, it is truth. It tells him that you see past the mask, past the armor, past the performance, and you connect with the man he truly is. That kind of touch is not easily forgotten. It is not easily resisted. Because at the end of the day, every man longs for someone who can reach the place where his soul beats and remind him that he is loved, valued, and alive. Why do these 5 places hold such incredible power? Why is it that a touch on the hands, the shoulders, the face, the back, or near the heart can bypass logic and move a man so deeply that he cannot resist? The answer lies in the way human beings are wired. Touch is not just skin to skin. It is communication without words. It is the language the body understands before the mind even has a chance to speak. From the moment a child is born, touch is the first sense awakened. Long before the eyes can see clearly or the ears can distinguish sounds, the skin already knows the warmth of connection. A baby calms when held, cries when touch is absent, and thrives when affection is given. This does not disappear in adulthood. It only becomes hidden beneath responsibilities, distractions, and the masks people wear. At the core, every human being still longs for that same reassurance, the feeling of being safe, seen, and loved through touch. Science explains this in powerful ways. When meaningful touch happens, the brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It is the same chemical that strengthens trust between mother and child, or between two people in love. Along with oxytocin, dopamine and serotonin rise, creating a sense of happiness and calm. Stress hormones like cortisol drop, and the body shifts from defense to openness. This is why those 5 places matter so much. They are not random. They are wired into our biology as zones of comfort, trust, and intimacy. Think of the hands. They are the instruments of action, work, and survival. To hold someone's hands is to symbolically pause their struggles and remind them they are not alone. Now think of the shoulders, the place that carries burdens. A touch there relieves invisible weight, even if only for a moment. The face is the mirror of identity. To touch it gently is to say, I value who you are, not just what you do. The back represents protection, the primal place where humans once feared unseen danger. A reassuring hand there signals, you are safe. And the heart area, there lies the deepest message of all. I love the essence of you, not just the surface. Each of these places connects to psychological needs that every man carries. The need for belonging, the need for recognition, the need for safety, the need for love. These are not luxuries. They are fundamental to the human condition. That is why a man cannot resist when these touches are genuine. They do not appeal to his ego. They appeal to his soul. Men, in particular, are often conditioned to hide their emotions. Society teaches them to appear strong, to act as though they do not need comfort, to mask pain with silence. But the truth is that beneath the surface, the same longing remains. When touched in these key places, the walls begin to crumble. The defenses weaken. The boy within the man who once needed comfort finally feels understood again. That is why the response is so powerful. It is not just about the present moment. It awakens memories, unmet needs, and hidden desires for connection. What makes these touches unforgettable is also their purity. When offered with sincerity, they carry no manipulation, no demand, no condition. They simply say, I am here. I see you. I care for you. In a world where men are often valued for performance, achievement, or strength, such unconditional acceptance is rare. That rarity is exactly what makes it impossible to resist. There is also a deeper spiritual truth. Touch in these places reminds a man of his humanity. It breaks the illusion that he must always fight alone. It shows him that intimacy is not weakness, but strength. Because to allow someone close enough to touch these vulnerable places requires trust, and trust, once built, becomes the foundation of unshakable bonds. Think about the last time you felt truly seen. Was it through words, or was it through presence? A hug, a hand on your shoulder, a simple moment of connection without speech. Words can lie, promises can break, but touch, when it is real, cannot be faked. The body knows when it is genuine. The heart feels when it is true. This is why these 5 places are so special. They are not chosen by chance. They are chosen by the human story itself. They have carried meaning across cultures, across generations, across time. A hand held has comforted warriors. A shoulder touched has encouraged the weary. A face caressed has softened the hardest hearts. A back reassured has given strength to the fearful. And a heart touched has healed the broken. This wisdom is written not in books, but in the very fabric of who we are. So when you use this power with intention, you are not just giving a man something pleasant. You are awakening something ancient, something sacred. You are reaching into the part of him that even he may not fully understand. And once that part is touched, it cannot be forgotten. He may resist many things, but he cannot resist the truth spoken through your touch. Because at the deepest level, every man longs for connection that is real. That is pure, and that reminds him he is more than the role he plays. Touch has always been more than a physical act. It is a force that shapes relationships in ways words alone never can. The way you touch someone becomes the silent story of how you value them. It carries emotion, energy, and unspoken promises that build the foundation of closeness or the cracks of distance. This is why those 5 places matter so deeply. They are not simply points on the body. They are anchors that connect two souls in ways that transform the relationship itself. Every relationship is built on trust. Without trust, even the strongest attraction eventually weakens. But trust is not built in grand moments. It grows through the small, consistent signals of care. A touch on the hand when he feels uncertain. A gentle hold of the shoulder when he feels tired. A caress of the face when he doubts his worth. These subtle actions communicate what words often fail to capture. You are safe with me. You are valued. You are loved. That is the kind of message that builds unshakable trust. Consider how fragile the human heart really is. People walk through life carrying scars from betrayal, rejection, and misunderstanding. Often men hide those wounds behind silence or strength, but they are there all the same. A well-timed touch can bypass the barriers he builds, reaching the wound directly and saying without speech, "You are not broken, you are not alone, you are worthy of love." This kind of reassurance can shift a relationship from shallow to deep, from temporary to lasting. Psychology shows that physical connection is one of the strongest predictors of emotional security. Couples who touch more, whether holding hands, hugging, or placing a hand on each other's back, report higher levels of satisfaction, trust, and resilience. Why? Because touch reminds the nervous system that safety exists. It calms fear, lowers stress, and creates a shared rhythm between two people. The more consistent this rhythm becomes, the harder it is to break the bond. Think of a relationship as a garden. Words are like seeds, but touch is the water and sunlight. Without touch, the seeds may never grow. They remain dry, fragile, and lifeless. But when nurtured with consistent warmth, they bloom into something beautiful. A man may hear 1,000 words of love, but one genuine touch can carry more weight than all of them combined. This is why relationships flourish when touch is present. It gives life to what might otherwise remain only an idea. At the same time, touch is not about possession, it is about presence. The difference is profound. Possession seeks control, but presence offers connection. When you place your hand on a man's heart, you are not claiming ownership. You are saying, "I see you, I honor you, I stand with you." That distinction is what keeps love alive, because love suffocates under control, but it thrives when fueled by presence. Relationships are not perfect journeys. They face storms, misunderstandings, and periods of distance. But in those moments, touch can become the bridge back to closeness, even when words fail, when anger rises, or when silence grows heavy. A hand held can soften defenses, and a gentle embrace can melt away walls. The body remembers what the mind sometimes forgets, that love is stronger than pride, stronger than fear, stronger than pain. Touch also redefines strength in a relationship. True strength is not in never showing weakness, but in creating a space where both can be vulnerable. When you offer comfort through touch, you give permission for honesty. You tell him it is okay to rest, it is okay to feel, it is okay to lean on me for a moment. That kind of reassurance transforms love from a fragile connection into an unshakable alliance. It is no longer about two individuals fighting alone, but about two souls carrying life together. The beauty of these 5 places is that they are universal. They transcend culture, language, and time. No matter who the man is or where he comes from, his biology and psychology respond the same way. His hands know the relief of being held. His shoulders feel the release of shared burden. His face softens under gentle affection. His back relaxes with reassurance, and his heart remembers what it means to be truly loved. This is not coincidence. It is human design. When these touches are practiced consistently, they create a pattern that defines the relationship. Over time, the man does not just respond to the touch itself. He begins to associate you with safety, trust, and belonging. He cannot separate the gesture from the person offering it. That is how bonds deepen into loyalty, and loyalty deepens into permanence. This is how relationships evolve from ordinary to extraordinary, through the small but powerful act of genuine touch. In a world full of distractions, empty words, and shallow connections, touch remains the most direct path back to what is real. It requires no technology, no performance, no masks, just presence, sincerity, and intention. And when given in the right places, it shapes relationships into something unforgettable, something that endures beyond time, beyond trials, beyond fear. At the end of everything, when all words are forgotten and all moments blur together, what remains is how you made someone feel. The warmth of a touch, the comfort of closeness, the security of knowing they were never alone. That is what lingers in memory long after time has passed. This is the lasting power of meaningful touch. It is not about brief attraction or temporary affection. It is about leaving an imprint on the heart that cannot be erased. Touch carries with it a language older than speech. Long before we learned to talk, we were comforted by the embrace of a parent, soothed by the gentle stroke of a hand, protected by the presence of someone close. The body remembers this language deeply, and it never forgets. Every time you extend a touch with sincerity, you awaken something primal within another human being. You remind them of belonging, of safety, of love that goes beyond reason. What makes meaningful touch so powerful is its ability to echo through time. Long after words have been silenced, the memory of how you touched someone can still warm their heart. A man may forget compliments, promises, or even entire conversations, but he will never forget the moment you placed your hand over his heart during his hardest day. That moment becomes a symbol, a reminder of who stood by him when the world felt heavy. This is why true touch lasts longer than time itself. Meaningful touch also has the power to transform you, not just the other person. When you reach out with genuine intention, you are not only giving love, you are shaping yourself into someone capable of deep compassion. Each time you practice kindness through touch, you train your own mind and heart to become softer, stronger, and more resilient. Psychology shows that giving comfort through physical connection lowers stress for both people involved. In other words, when you touch to heal, you are also healing yourself. And yet, the power of touch lies not in its rarity, but in its consistency. A one-time gesture can create impact, but a lifetime of consistent, caring touches creates a bond that cannot be broken. This is why relationships built on small daily acts of closeness endure, even when the storms of life arrive. Every gentle hand on his shoulder, every hug when he needs grounding, every reassuring squeeze of his hand writes another line in the story of loyalty and devotion. That story becomes the shield that protects the relationship when challenges appear. There is also courage in meaningful touch. It takes strength to reach out when pride wants you to stay distant. It takes humility to comfort someone when you feel hurt yourself. But the act of extending your hand, of choosing connection over separation, is what keeps love alive. A man cannot resist that kind of strength because it is not about dominance, it is about devotion. It shows him that no matter what, you choose unity over isolation, and that choice is the foundation of an unbreakable bond. Think about the greatest relationships in history. They were not built on wealth, on appearances, or on fleeting attraction. They were built on presence, on loyalty, and on the daily reaffirmation of love. Touch was always part of that equation, from holding hands through difficulties to embracing in moments of triumph to offering our silent comfort in grief. Touch was the thread that kept everything tied together. That thread is available to you as well, if you choose to weave it consistently into your own relationship. The beauty of meaningful touch is that it costs nothing, yet its value is beyond measure. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to have all the answers, and you do not need to solve every problem. Sometimes all you need to do is reach out, place your hand where it matters most, and let your presence speak louder than any words could. In that moment, you become unforgettable, not because of what you said, but because of what you gave through your touch. When you look back on your life, the moments that shine the brightest will not be the days filled with things, but the days filled with connection. You will remember the times you held someone and felt their heartbeat align with yours. You will remember the times you gave comfort and saw their pain soften in your presence. You will remember how love was not just spoken, but lived. That is the legacy of meaningful touch. So never underestimate its power. In a world that often feels disconnected, where people are starved for authenticity, your ability to connect through touch is a gift beyond measure. Use it with wisdom, use it with consistency, and use it with courage. Because in the end, it is not what you owned, achieved, or displayed that defines you. It is how deeply you touched the hearts of others and how profoundly you allowed yourself to be touched in return. That is the essence of meaningful touch. It builds trust. It strengthens love. It creates memories that never fade. And above all, it shapes a relationship into something eternal, something that cannot be broken even by the passage of time.